Welcome to Highly Regarded. My name is Ulrich, and I have 5 theorems or rules for anyone to understand professional basketball more than the superfan or the commentator that you'll see on TV. And based on these theorems, I'll walk us through how to determine who are the greatest basketball players of all time. And these 5 theorems will bring us back to the heart of basketball itself. 5 people working together to place a ball in a basket more than their opponents within an allotted time to win a single game. Let's dive in. So I want to preface and emphasize the greatest players ever do not and should not get full credit for winning a game. And anyone that understands team sports knows that no one player is bigger than the team. Remember hearing that from your youth leagues? It's not just about ego moderation or being nice, it's a matter of fact. And some may call it an axiom. And this means that no one person can go out there and win by themselves nor lose by themselves. It's a total net effort amongst an entire roster. And look, I'll be the first to admit that in the sport of basketball, one person can come pretty close to doing it on their own, but the team is still out there doing something with the alpha player. In fact, I'll owe all of you a fancy dinner in Beverly Hills when someone like Kobe Bryant doesn't have Smush Parker passing to him or Luke Walton rebounding for him so he can score 81 points for your viewing pleasure. I wonder how close he gets to 81 if his team simply stands down. Therefore, Theorem 1, everyone who plays in a single game contributes either positively or negatively towards the objective of winning that single game. Because no single player takes full credit for winning, I also want to emphasize the greatest players are not the greatest teams, and vice versa. So often a single player is judged by championships, and some call this ring culture. It's toxic, it's wrong, it's protectionism for lazy media stories for the media's maximum benefit. It has nothing to do with basketball. And this won't be the case on this channel ever. I know how y'all feel about ESPN already. Using the mainstream sports media for judging and commenting on individuals is irrational, archaic, and it's full of bias. First of all, no one thinks Robert Horry's 7 rings or Steve Kerr's 5 give them any argument in the greatest ever discussion. But the common rebuttal to this ring culture fallacy is disrespectful to those players, calling them simply role players or along for the ride, like it's easy to replace their contributions whether they score 5 or 15. They deserve a proper objective standard to be compared to as well. Additionally, if you only focus on counting championships for the star of the team, how do you slice titles of teams with multiple megastars? Did Kobe really win 5 rings with 3 of them being Shaq's clear co-pilot? And how many titles does Dwayne Wade really have with LeBron being the lead act for 2 of the 3? And Kevin McHale, he must have 0 because of Larry Legend, right? These simple examples clearly show a truth that's long been ignored by complacent narratives. Therefore, Theorem 2, a championship is not owned by one person. Rather, a shared accomplishment by many players that have participated to acquire it. Each participant deserves a varying share of the credit depending on his contribution. In the same way a championship is divisible amongst players, so is it that a season championship won or not is divisible amongst games won to pursue it. Using the clunky mainstream analyst argument of championship or bust, it's impossible to avoid a zero-sum result of assessing individual talent. Like Steph Curry's 73-9 season means nothing positive for his legacy because his team lost in the finals, or Jerry West making it to 9 NBA finals yet only winning 1, I guess it doesn't matter when comparing his greatness, or LeBron James 8 straight finals, 4 per team, but it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that ring. Look, the importance of a championship goes without saying, but it's not at the expense of a player's contribution to the pursuit of one. In fact, if we were to decompose what a championship is, we would get the following. Winning 1 best-of-7 series in the finals, winning 3 best-of-7 series earlier in the playoffs, winning enough regular season games to make it to the playoffs. The common input in all of these steps is winning the game at hand. In order to win the game at hand, you must outperform the opponent in that game. It's not a coincidence that players and coaches always reverberate the phrase, take it 1 game at a time, the rest will take care of itself. In light of all this, I suggest Theorem 3. A championship is not a measure of individual success. It is composed of the positive outcome of multiple single games. The single game being the place where the individual has direct impact and can be assessed for their abilities objectively. Sports are fascinating because there's always a mix of objectivity and subjectivity that defines a moment. The discretion of a referee for calling a foul impacts the game as much as the hard line defining the inbound play. However, it's easy to see award systems based on biased feelings and votes of writers, league officials, and sports analysts carry an unhealthy weight in determining the historical relevance of individual players. You would think a society with all the tech advancements we have would find a better way to come to answers than a democratic vote. Yet every year it seems like there's some blatant shortcoming with the All-Stars, the All-NBA, All-Defense, or MVP. And look, I'm not here to explain how we should come to these answers. I'm here to say these answers should be completely ignored when assessing greatness amongst players. There are countless examples of all-star snubs, but what about these legacy killers? 2011, writers boycott LeBron for going to play with the Heat while having one of his best seasons of his career to date. MVP Derrick Rose. 97, writers became bored with Jordan because he simply won MVP too much, even though he bested Malone in nearly every category, including team wins. MVP Karl Malone. 2005-2006, writers ignored Kobe Bryant's regular season greatness with post-Shaq Lakers, receiving 0 votes in 2005, and only 4 votes in 2006, likely due to protesting his Colorado affair. MVP Steve Nash ×2. 1962, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game and 26 rebounds per game. Writers forgot or ignored the MVP is meant for the regular season. They gave it to his rival that won the championship, but averaged 30 points and 2 rebounds fewer than Chamberlain. Really? MVP Bill Russell. This list could go on forever as people continually let their emotions get in the way of assessing basic questions. Simply put, these failures impact legacies. Even worse, these subjective votes impact players' ability to earn larger salaries in a supermax pay scale. As time passes, the outrage and perplexity of the decision will fade, but the damage remains. How many water cooler or barbershop debates hinge on MVP count or all-star game count? How many lame duck all-star nods were gifted to aging veterans like Duncan, CP3, Kobe, or Dirk? If these titles are simply tokens of appreciation, why are fans counting them to determine greatness? So Theorem 4, an award based purely on voting or human subjectivity is inherently flawed. The presence of or lack of such award should be rejected as evidence for individual greatness. My last claim is a two-parter stating that all regular season games are created equal and all playoff games are created equal. And this will naturally cause some discomfort to both fans and experts. People have the inclination to overvalue the data they personally gather. The problem is we have a finite perspective and always miss more than we see. We see more of the playoffs because there are fewer games and more of them are nationally televised. Therefore, they tend to drive our basketball worldview more uniformly. However, no one can claim they have a firm grasp on the performance of an individual during an 82 regular game season and compare it to all the other 1,148 games in total that year. How do we judge that Magic Johnson versus the 83 Mavericks should be weighted differently or the same as Tiny Archibald versus 76 Knicks in the regular season? Does anyone know or care? Is it 89 Eastern Conference Finals between the Bulls and Pistons more valuable than the 95 finals between the Rockets and the Magic? You all may have differing opinions on that. It's irrational and a waste of energy to talk past one another judging one game or one season or one playoff more important than another. The only answer is to establish an objective and rational standard for comparison across time and phases of the season. Theorem 5, the performance in a regular season game is weighted equally as any other regular season game regardless of era or opponent. The performance in a playoff game is weighted equally as any other playoff game regardless of era, opponent, or round. Playoffs and regular season are completely separate in all regards. Now, there's a lot to cover in how we'll determine and rationalize the players' rankings. However, it's important to unlearn or at least provide explanation for not using traditional forms of comparison. The 5 theorems I showed you create less ambiguity, less human error in circular reasoning, and validates personal favoritism. This disables simplistic media narratives that are creating a dumb soap opera environment that, to tell you the truth, most people actually do prefer. So if you do like winning your barbershop debates by yelling more rings over the guy in the next chair, if you like your broadcast spoon-feeding you lazy narratives that secure their role as Hoop's interpreter, you probably don't want to watch the next video.